Hi, good morning. This is David Williams. I'm here with Elyse Archer. Elyse, how are you doing today?
David, I'm doing so well. It's so good just to reconnect with you and to come on the show. And I'm excited about the concept and what you're doing. So doing great and glad to be here.
It's good to have you. It's been a while since you and I've caught up. I believe you're in the Atlanta area now. Is that correct?
Yep, we are going on 3 years down here, which is so hard
Wow.
to believe.
I know it is hard to believe because we were connected here in Raleigh and it's wow. I wouldn't have thought 3 years. So it's amazing how time flies. What I'd like to start out by doing is just having you briefly tell a little bit about who you are and what you do. And then at the end, I'll open up the opportunity for you to expand on that. So briefly, who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm Elyse Archer. I do a couple different things. I'm a founding team member of a company called Brand Builders Group. We are a personal brand strategy firm, and we work with everything from people just starting out in their personal brand journey, like side hustlers, to 8-figure entrepreneurs, New York Times bestselling authors, top podcast hosts. And then I also do something I call video confidence and lead generation coaching. So I've grown a lot of my business over the years through the power of being visible on video. And I have worked with a lot of clients who want to figure out video for their brand. And maybe they're in sales or maybe they're an entrepreneur and they're trying to figure out, but they're either really nervous about how they show up on camera or they don't know how to use video to generate leads. So I help them figure out how to be really confident on camera and then how to use video to grow their business.
That's great. I wanted to go ahead. I'll do a plug right fast with what you said about that because Elyse Archer can be found on LinkedIn. And one of the things that you do that I see on my feed quite frequently are videos that you've done because basically the setup that I'm seeing right now is what you're projecting. Not always. There's another background I think that you use, another place you may sit as well. So you can see that I do see your content on my feed. So people can get free tips by going, connecting with you on LinkedIn and seeing those posts come through. And we'll dive in at the end with some more details and some information on how to find you and your website and that type of stuff. But with that said, let's go ahead and dive in kind of with the purpose behind this. And you can talk about your area of expertise in this, because one of the things I want to do is have this stand the test of time, whether we're in a crisis at the moment or whether things are thriving. And I know that you've been in the sales world long enough that you've seen people thrive, you've seen companies thrive, and then you've seen people in a crisis mode like the current situation. But what I want you to do is offer some advice, some hope, and talk about what you see people do like that are thriving and getting to that next level, because I know you well enough that one of the things you do is not just, oh, you're so successful, that's good, you don't need me, have a nice day. You're helping people go beyond their current level of success. And then you're likely seeing things when people are saying, well, I don't know about this video stuff. It sounds like a great idea, but I don't know how to get on camera. I don't know what to say, what to do. So feel free to talk about how you help people in those situations and getting beyond, like, okay, go ahead and embrace. This is what this can do for you. So I encourage you to embrace it. So I'm going to open up the opportunity for you to speak for a few minutes. I'll jot down a few notes and then I'll pick out something that you said and we'll kind of expand on that. So go for it, Elyse.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was just thinking in preparation for this conversation about what are some of the things that I do on a regular basis, but I find myself doing even more right now. I know you said at the beginning, it's designed to be an evergreen conversation. So I think these are things we can be doing anytime. And sometimes when we are in a time of challenge or crisis, like you said, it forces us to really hone in and roll up our sleeves and do them more. So, it was interesting, David. I do quarterly planning sessions, and every 90 days, I sit down and I look at, what are my goals for the next 90 days? How much money do I want to make? What do I want to contribute? Do I want to launch a new program? What do I want to do for the house? And it was really interesting when I did it this past weekend, because usually what I find is that the list of things, like I'm a big goal achiever. Most of my clients are too. We're going after, big dreams, big goals. We're not satisfied with staying where we're at. But what was very interesting to me about doing it right now is the thing that actually showed up for me more than anything was to truly appreciate everything that I have. And I think part of it is just the environment that we're in right now, it caused me to really stop and focus on, oh my gosh, look at all the blessings that I already have. And so one of the practices that I've done off and on for a long time, but I've really ramped up over the past couple weeks, has just been daily morning appreciation for everything that happened the day before, or for everything that's happening in my life right now. Because especially I think if you're wired like you are, like I are, where we're constantly going after some, next level of achievement, it's so easy to forget that great thing that happened the day before and kind of push it under the rug, or like acknowledge it in the moment and then move on to, okay, what's next? And so I think just like with anything, if we don't process it, it's just like eating your food, right? If you don't chew and swallow, there's not room for more food to go in your mouth. Well, it's the same type of thing with the blessings that show up in your life. And so right now, and this is something I'm talking with my clients about too, so much of my focus is just, it's on appreciation. It's looking around at me like, I so appreciate the fact that I can connect with you right now on this interview, and that, you're someone who's been a friend of mine for years, and then we haven't talked in a while, and to be back, like reconnecting and re-engaging with you. And for whoever's listening to have the honor, we take it for granted too, that people are going to listen to us, to have the honor of impacting or helping somebody who's listening. Like, that's a big deal. So I think that's the first thing that I know I'm focusing on right now. And I would also invite other people to focus on. I think something else that is really critical to be thinking about is, how can you add more value than you already do? So especially when people are, thinking more carefully about their dollars and what they're spending, and maybe it's not flowing as freely as it was even a month ago, we really want to think about, you can't take those customer relationships for granted. You can't take it for granted that people are following you online, that people are buying from you, that they're working with you. So I just really started thinking about, how can I add way more value to the people who are my customers than I was before. And I think I've always focused on that. I feel like I've always done a good job of that, but it was like, I realized I need to double down and become indispensable to them. And so some of the things that I've done for my clients are open up just extra access to me. Like, one of the things I did was downloaded an app called Voxer, where you can just do voice messaging back and forth with people. And I've opened up for my personal clients, hey, you have unlimited Voxer access to me right now. If you need anything, if you need additional coaching or support between our sessions, just, send me a voice message and I'm here to help you. And so I think for each of us, it's thinking about, how can we become indispensable to our customers and to our followers to really become just something they're like, I could never imagine not working with you, right? Even if financially I'm not where I was before. So I think we want to really focus on that, just that level, that deep level of value. And then I think the other thing is just really engaging in conversations with people. And this is something I've been doing with a lot of my customers, and I'm guessing your guests have probably been, other guests may have been talking about this too, but reaching out to hear, what do people really need right now? Because for me, I'm fortunate. I'm in an industry that is relevant right now. Most of my business is online, so it hasn't been severely impacted, but for a lot of people it has. And I think whether you're in an industry that's impacted right now or not, you want to use this opportunity to have conversations and dialogues and find out, what do people actually need from you? I was listening to a podcast this morning, the One Thing podcast. I don't know if you're a fan of that or not, but they were talking about one of their customers who's in catering. And, for a caterer right now, one would think, okay, you may not have a lot of opportunities coming in. And this person actually thought that they were going to have to shut down their business. But what they did was they reached out to their customers and found out that someone was connected to the healthcare system, and they needed meals delivered to hospitals right now. So they now have pivoted, they've shifted who their customer is, but they're actually doing really well. And they've got a contract with this hospital now because they took the time to reach out and listen and find out what people need. So I think if there's, whether you're listening to this as we record, when there's COVID stuff going on, or whether you're listening to it down the road, taking the time and space to actually ask people, what do you need most? How can I be of service? And then giving that to them. And you and I can definitely talk, how do you do that in your content strategy? How do you do that through video, if that's applicable? But those are some things I'm focusing on right now, and that I would encourage other people to do too.
And so with that said, what I'm going to have you say, and that you sparked there at the very end, is implementation. So one of the things for people who already do a lot of stuff, or have this whole concept that I'm doing, Hope Now 2020, I literally had the idea for a website registered the domain within probably 24 hours of the idea and just started moving forward without really an action plan or knowing what it was going to look like. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not, but that's just kind of my nature. I'm like, okay, I got an idea. Let me see if I can roll with it. I say that not to bring attention to me and, oh, that makes you awesome, David, by just like moving forward. But one of the things that you said there about the catering, for example, is how they shifted and how they listened and looked for other opportunities. So what I'd like for you to kind of expand on is what implementation looks like, what action looks like. You gave some examples for yourself, and I know you well enough, you're kind of like a person of action too. You probably thought about Boxer and then thought, boom, next thing you know, Boxer's up and running, and you blasted it out to everybody. But for people who don't take action as quickly, talk about the importance of that shift in that direction. And obviously, probably with a little more forethought than I did in launching this site of just like, okay, I'm going to register a domain, I'll have a website, and I went live within a few days without a real plan. Sometimes things that we do needs a deeper plan than that. So talk to me about planning and implementation, some of the stuff that you kind of alluded to, but for listeners and viewers, what does that look like? How do you start to create something and actually make it happen?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think part of it is you have to know how you're wired. So you and I are probably both, fast starts on the Colby. We just get an idea and we're like, okay, let's just go do it. and like you said, sometimes that's great. And sometimes you realize, okay, maybe that needed a little bit more forethought. You have to know how you work and how you're wired. But one thing that I will say, because not everybody's wired like that, and it's not, one is not better than the other, but one of my favorite quotes from my mentor is perfectionism is for poor people. So especially right now, if you're getting an idea and you're trying to like make it perfect and wait to launch and wait to get it out there until it's totally perfect, somebody else is going to pass by you, right? It's like when you get that idea, it is meant to come forth in the world. It's meant to happen. And if it's not going to happen through you, it's going to happen through somebody else. This is something that I've learned. So not being so focused on making things perfect before you get them out there, because I think one, when you first do something, especially at the beginning, sometimes we're worried. And this happens with a lot of my clients with video. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid I'm going to put something out online and, I'm going to make a big mistake and it's going to ruin my reputation forever. Look, especially at the beginning, nobody's watching anyway. You don't, maybe your mom, right? But you don't have a big audience built up at the beginning, most likely. So when you first get that idea, it's relatively low stakes to start putting something out there and testing and just seeing, hey, what's the response? And I think with any idea that we get, it's kind of like walking down a dark hallway, right? Where when you get that inspiration, when you get that idea, it's for a reason. So don't discredit it. If there's something that you're feeling called to do right now, and there's something that maybe you don't see the full picture, but you have a rough sense of what you think it would look like, take the steps that you know to take right now. Take the next step, because just like walking down that dark hallway, you may think that you're going for the door at the end of the hallway, but as you walk further down it, you may realize, oh, there's this door on the left that I didn't even see when I was at the beginning. And that's actually the door I want to go through. Everything in my life that's opened up in terms of opportunities and like really fortunate stuff, I didn't necessarily know that it was going to happen the way that it did. I think that's the way it is for all of us, right? But when you take action and just take the next step based upon what you know, that's when you start to get more vision and clarity into what's the next step beyond that. And especially when the world is changing fast and things are happening fast, I love my 90-day plans. And right now I'm like, I think this is what's going to happen in the next 90 days. But really all that I can focus on is today. What are the steps I can take to move forward towards my goals based upon what I know, being, excited about the outcome and doing everything I know to do, but then also being flexible to say something could change later today or tomorrow, and I may need to pivot, and that's okay. So I think one of the great blessings of everything that's happening right now for me is it's taught me to focus even more on, in this moment, what's the next right action? What's the next right action right now based on what I know? And just keep doing those and stacking those. And over time, new doors start to open up that you didn't even see were there.
Yeah, there's, you kind of alluded to that early on in the conversation about daily. I mean, you were talking about daily. And so taking those daily steps. And I think you gave some great advice for those who are not, I mean, it's who you are and how you're wired. You and I are wired very similar, a decent age difference between us, but at the same time, we're both wired very different, I mean, wired differently from a lot of folks, in that we got this idea and we just run with it. Then if it like hits up against the wall, we're like, okay, maybe I need to do something else. But I think for those that are not wired that way, you gave some great advice. If you've got that idea, try to start putting it into action, taking those daily steps, walking. I love the hallway example. You see the door at the end of the hallway, but as you start on that journey, you start that direction, you may say, oh, here's this door that I didn't realize was there. And so I think the importance of having that idea and trying to act upon it, like you said about the video, just doing some of this right now, and somebody doing a video and they're like, I'm not used to doing a video. I'm not used to looking at the camera and talking. But they actually do it, and they're not going to have the audience in the beginning, like you said, maybe their mom or, you know, a couple of close friends. And one of the things that they probably should do is send it to a couple of close friends and say, what do you think about this? Because this is something that I'm trying new. The other beauty about doing video, and you can talk about this a little in a moment, because what I'm going to have you do in just a minute after this is give me some closing thoughts, but you could talk a little bit about some video tips in there if you don't mind. But one of the beauties of today is, even though my core business is on the photography and video production side, although I'm not the video production guru of our business, is that, yes, there are times that things need to look very professional and very, you know, if you're doing a promo video for your company and stuff, but there are situations now, it's a lot more acceptable. And I know you know this, it's a lot more acceptable to use a webcam and to just say, hi, this is who I am, this is what we got going on, blah, 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 and you do that. So in your closing thoughts, I'd like to hear a couple of things from you. Well, one is just very generic. What final thoughts would you leave for those listening and watching? What are some things that may have come to your mind in these last few moments of me talking and like, okay, I'm thinking about this because I know your mind's ticking. And like, what do I want to close out with? So some closing thoughts, but also a few just quick video tips, if you don't mind, to share that with us as well. And then once you do that, I'll open it up to give your website and things of that nature.
Yeah, sure thing. Great question. So, you know, I think in terms of just mindset, I think this is a time to be so appreciative and to be so generous. And I think when the world slows down a little bit, when things change, it's like sometimes we've been getting nudges for a while and we just haven't listened because stuff is really good and really easy. And sometimes we need to be smacked upside the head a little bit to get a message. I know, at least in my own life, I've experienced a lot of things like that. And now is really the time, and I'll say this for me because I think everyone has a different experience, but for me, now is really a time to be more grateful and more appreciative of what we have than ever. And also, like I said, to be more generous than ever. You know, when we feel fear when we're focused on ourselves. So when we're focused on our survival, our livelihood, are we going to be okay? Are other people going to judge me? That's when we feel fear. When you shift that focus off of yourself onto somebody else, you actually physically can't feel fear in that moment. And so for any moment when you find yourself in fear, when I find myself in fear, one of the quickest switches is just to think, okay, who can I help or serve right now? And I think one of the things that you can be doing, especially if you're focused on content creation, which I know a lot of people are right now, is just, hey, how am I going to connect with customers in a different way? Well, content creation and video creation is a great way to do it. Give away everything you know for free to people. And that sounds super counterintuitive. People are like, oh my gosh, why would I do that? Why would somebody hire me if I taught them everything I know about my industry or about my specialty, or my competitors are going to get the information? It doesn't work like that today. You have to have an abundance mindset with sharing liberally what you know. And you probably have great thought leadership in your space, in your industry. And I think for a lot of people, the problem is people just don't know that you do. So start generously sharing everything you know online. I personally think video content is one of the best ways to do it. But if you're not comfortable with that, or that's not your thing, do an audio podcast, write something, but start sharing. People today don't pay for information, right? You can go on Google and get all the information you need for free. They pay for organization and application. So don't be afraid to share what you know, people will come to you when they start connecting with you and realizing, wow, like, you know, this person, he's really taught me a lot from his free content. I wonder what it would be like to work with him and to get his help in implementing this in my life or in my business. We want to be more generous and helpful than ever. So that's, to me, that's one way we can be super generous and helpful right now. It's just thinking about, what do my people need? What are their biggest questions, and how can I serve and show up? And then in terms of video specifically, there's, oh my gosh, there's so many, but I think,
I'm sure you could talk for a couple of hours just on that. So just some quick tips.
Sure. You know, so a lot of my clients that I work with on the video side, I'd say they're probably more just starting out. And so there can be a lot of fear of, you know, how do I look? How do I sound? Are people going to judge me with this? I think one of the best things to do is don't watch your video content. If it's going to hold you back from getting it up online, do not. I know for me, if I watched everything I put out, I would torture myself with, well, that one thing wasn't right, so I need to go back and redo the whole thing. And then it takes you 17 takes, and 4 hours later, you're like, why did I even try this? Yeah. Just get it out there, you know, get it out into the world. You're going to know if you really goofed and you need to do a re-record. I always know if I did that. But if you're watching it just to make sure it was okay, it's never going to be exactly the way you'd like it. That's okay. Just get it out there into the world. I think some of the best things to be creating video content around are simply, like I mentioned before, the questions your customers have. So there's a great and easy exercise that we have our clients do at Brand Builders Group, which is just make a list of what are the 52 different questions your ideal customer has in relation to your service, your program, your industry, and then every week answer one of them on a video. And it's that simple. And if you just do that exercise, that brainstorm exercise, it'll probably take you maybe 30 minutes max to do it. It shouldn't take that long. But then you'll have a year's worth of content to go out. Right. So it doesn't have to take a long time. And it's really just getting into the mindset of how can I help and serve? So I'd say those are 2 little tips that people can take with them right away to help with their video content.
Well, that's great, you know, because like, you know, we kind of laughed when you started talking, because the reality of it is you could teach a whole course on video content, and this is how you do it. And this is, you know, you do this and you do that, but you gave some really critical advice in there, because I've been on the side of like doing and redoing and retaking and reshooting. And a lot of times I find that it doesn't get any better. And I think we're concerned about how we look. So we have that mindset of perfection. And you said that earlier on as well. You know, everything doesn't have to be perfect. If you try to get everything perfect, now at the same time, I know you know this, it goes without saying, I think, but I'm going to say it anyway. You don't want to do anything that's going to damage your brand, but just because you flub up and mispronounce a word doesn't mean that you've just destroyed your brand and it's going to, you know, all be ripped apart because you mispronounced a word. So just go for it. I mean, I think that's what I heard you saying. Don't worry about perfection. Go for it and try to give back. Give people some advice. What you've done today, you know, you get paid to help people. And what you've done today is share some free advice that hopefully people can take some notes on and have some takeaways and be able to implement in their life to make a difference. And I think you really hit it correctly when you said giving that free content. Hopefully they're going to remember, Elyse Archer, she's the one that talked about this video content stuff. Out of all the people that I've done these with so far, I don't think I've had anyone yet kind of focus on video content. Now, the reality of it is the beauty of being 10 plus into these for this new website is I don't think any one person has exactly talked about the exact same thing. There's been some crossover, but your uniqueness in this, there's a lot of good things you've said, but one of your unique parts is the whole video content piece. So I hope that not only will people get some other advice that you gave, which was some great advice, but take the opportunity. And I do like the fact that you interjected in there. If you're not comfortable with video, think of the podcast, which is the audio, right? So that's kind of the step. They can still hear your voice. You can still personalize the message there. And then obviously you got the whole writing piece as well that, okay, I'm not going to do audio. I'm not going to do video. I'm just going to write something. But content creation is critical. And I think if people can do the video and audio part, because what I'll do with this is I'll strip out the audio and it'll be a podcast as well. So I'm getting the best of both worlds. And obviously people have to learn those things to say, okay, now I've done this video, how can I strip it out and make it a podcast? And that's for a whole another time, or, you know, maybe by finding you on your website or some of the other stuff that you do, there might be some advice. So that's a good transition in these final moments, Elyse, of letting us know how to find you online. I'm giving you permission. I know that you talked a lot about giving back, but because you gave today, I want to give you permission to share your website freely, share how to find you out there, because I want people to know how to reach you and how to see what you're up to, and especially the LinkedIn part, because I'm forever seeing your videos on my LinkedIn feed. So close us out with how to reach you.
Oh, absolutely. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on. So I am at Elyse Archer everywhere. So no matter what social media site you're on, you can find me at Elyse Archer. It's ELYSEARCHER. My website is ElyseArcher.com. And on the website, there's lots of free goodies, free trainings, free video tips, like all sorts of good stuff on there. And then my team and I also offer a free call to anyone who wants to either get help with their personal brand strategy or with their video confidence and lead generation strategy. And you can just shoot me a note through the website and let me know you want a free strategy call as well. So hope to be talking to people soon. And thank you again so much for having me on.
You're welcome, Elyse. It's been a pleasure having you. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks, you too.